All right, GM53, last video of the day, Saturday. This will be part number 3 because this is important. Matthew from Eddie's. And basically now we're down to, I got the cylinder heads on, the brand new cylinder head gaskets under there, and I loosely have the cylinder head bolts in here. Let's talk about cylinder head bolts for a second, because one of the old dinosaurs that I worked with, funny story again, Jeff seemed to think they had one that they worked on a while ago. They never understood what torque to yield is. Torque to yield is, I believe, been around since early 2000, probably earlier, but the engineers decided that stretching this bolt as it is torqued in the cylinder head in an even fashion, and there's 10 of these on each cylinder head on this GM53, but stretching the bolt for the final torque is ultimately what gives it its best grab or best ability to stay tight. So these are one-time use bolts, and what the dinosaurs didn't seem to understand is they did a head gasket job one time, and him and Scott were always joking about it. It was funny, probably not for the customer, but it was leaking. And Jeff was like, oh, maybe you just need to torque these babies down just a little bit more till it snaps, probably. You can't do that, and you can't reuse these, because once these are stretched, if you go to put them back in and retorque them, guess what is going to happen? It's going to snap. And again, there's 2 kits basically of cylinder head bolts. There are, again, 10 of these per cylinder head on this 5.3 LS style engine. However, the second gen here, they have a new bolt, and the new bolt with the internal hex is only 1 bolt on the driver's side front upper bolt location, and you can't use, they give you this special bolt in both the kits, assuming you might be doing the driver's side head, but this bolt is noticeably shorter. You cannot just omit the 11 millimeter hex on here. It is not a standard hex, and just omit it, because if you try and drive one of these bolts in, it's not going to get tight because it's not going to bottom out. All important information that individuals out there, that I'm sure some people try and tackle jobs like these themselves and they don't understand. And again, torque specs. Torque specs are key. When I say stretching a bolt, basically all the regular bolts get torqued to 59 foot-pounds, and then 90 degrees, and then 60 degrees, and then the one special bolt is 59 foot-pounds, 90 degrees, and 40 degrees. They have specs for a reason, and I'm really big. I've always been big in my entire career, and people up in the Northwoods don't seem to understand, especially in the Iron Mountain area, shops especially. They don't tend to typically follow procedures, and to each their own. They want to coming back, that's fine with them. I follow the procedures, especially on the stuff that I am really familiar with, GM engines. And another important point would be there is Loctite already applied on these bolts from the factory. There are certain instances or certain manufacturers that recommend that you put a little bit of oil, not in the GM procedure. I think you want to definitely stay away from oil with the Loctite on there, because again, blowing out the bolt holes to make sure something doesn't hydrolock and getting the correct torque is important. So you want to make sure it's clean and dry, so that when you're torquing this 3 different times, that it's getting the proper torque and the proper clamping force. And again, along with the torque, the tools. I spend the money. Back in the day, the 3/8 and the 1/2 inch snap-on torque angle wrenches, these were the first torque angle wrenches out on the market. Matco didn't have anything like that initially. Snap-on was first to the game, and I religiously, they are pricey. I think nowadays this one is closer to $1,000, and this one is probably about $700 for the 3/8, but extremely handy. The dealers back in the day used to have this little torque meter, and yeah, you could probably put paint marks on the bolts and judge degrees, because that's all you're doing is 360 degrees in a circle. You're moving 90 degrees with that bolt head, and then another 40 or another 60 depending on which bolt it is. There are ways around it. But I would rather spend the money, because I am a professional. I do this professionally, and I have done these torque wrenches from Snap-on, have paid themselves off with the amount of head gaskets, engine work, everything else that I have done in my entire career. I had them when I was at the dealer in the aftermarket world, all the way to Maddie's Auto Repair here. And the tools that you spend and invest the money in that make your job easier, make life easier. So I'm going to be getting a workout here. That was my last point. To anybody out there that doesn't know, lifting these cylinder heads in here without scratching anything and keeping the gasket in place around the wires and everything else, that is a job in and of itself. Kind of back-breaking work. You're at odd angles. You don't want to scratch the surface. You want to get it set in there on the dowel pins and then be able to get down there without having anything pinched underneath of it. So all important stuff. And the next bit of workout, why I'm in such great shape, is because these torque wrenches, people don't realize, 59 degrees, yeah, you do that 10 times on one side, no problem. You start bending and torquing in here to get into this engine bay, and you start doing degrees trying to get leverage on it, that's where it's tough. And this is gas, small type engine stuff. The guys that do diesel work in heavy trucks, like my buddy Billy, they work on big shit. I got tons of respect for those individuals, but I get plenty workout just doing a cylinder head gasket job. I'll probably be huffing and puffing here because I do smoke after I get this, but we're going to get this torque down, so make it a great Memorial Day weekend.